So let's go ahead and get ready for a sit, and just going to invite you to find a comfortable posture, and you can have your eyes closed. If that's not comfortable for you, you can always just go ahead and look at the floor about 3 or 4 feet in front of you with just a very soft gaze, so you're not looking at anything in particular. If you like, you can lay down. And I suggest if you are laying down that you put a pillow or a bolster, something under your knees so that it lifts your knees a little bit and drops your back. That'll help you be able to sit longer and be more comfortable. And so we just begin with just taking a moment to just notice where we are right now. So just taking a moment to notice your mind, your heart and body. It's like, oh, showing up in this moment, it's like this. And again, whatever we find is okay. Conditions are such, today was like this, but everything is temporary. And this evening, I'd like to invite you to just pay particular attention to your mind state right now. Just noticing how your mind state is. You may feel relaxed and open, or stressed, pressured. You may have grief or sadness, or some worry. And as you notice this mind state, just taking a moment to just deepen into it a little mindfully and just notice what are the conditions that are bringing this mind state. So, perhaps something difficult happened today or something joyful happened. Some condition is creating this mind state. And again, we don't have to hold on to it. We can just let it be here. And if it's particularly joyful, you may want to take a moment to just breathe that joy through your body. Just anchoring it, allowing it to permeate your cells. But if it's a difficult or stressful mind state, again, you can just gently release it on the out-breath. Just breathe it out. No need to hold on to it. If it comes back again, no problem. That just means it's a little sticky. There's always another breath. So we just allow it and then gently breathe it out on the out-breath. You may also notice that this particular mind state that's here is generating a certain kind of energy. Perhaps it's creating a lot of energy in your body. Or if you have stressful thoughts, you may notice a tension in your head. And whatever you notice is fine. I just invite you to not cling to the energy. Energy has movement to it. So just allowing it to bubble, rise off the body, or flow out of the bottom of your feet, your hands. And so by doing these practices of breathing out tension or allowing it to bubble off or flow out of our body, we don't cling to it. And we set ourselves up to come back into balance with natural flow. Things arise and they pass away. Doing this, we empty out any extra energy we're holding, and we come back into flow. A healthy, natural state, just like water flowing down a river. When water stops flowing, it gets stagnant. But when it flows, it keeps releasing and moving and stays healthy. And as we do these practices, breathing out tension and letting energy flow, we come back to the peace and ease of our natural mind. We relax and come home to our essential nature. No need to cling to anything. Let yourself be carried by this flow. Let it be natural and ordinary. If the mind becomes busy, just gently breathe out the thoughts, letting them go. Letting go of extra tension and energy. And just empty. So you can feel the peace and ease. It's right here in the background. If there's a lot of peace and ease, allow yourself to begin just breathing into it. Just allowing it to get as big as it wants. Letting go into peace and ease. Sorry about that first bell. It seemed a little loud. So welcome everyone. Nice to sit with you all again. So, the invitation I put out this year was that we could do a practice and unfold in a practice that over this year would soothe our mind, hearts, and bodies and bring us to more centered, peaceful wisdom and awakening. And that we can then take that out in the world to unfold the passions and the calling that we are called to. I feel like my work is to kind of help you find your center, and then you guys get to go out in the world and do whatever you're called to. That's so beautiful. It's like spreading seeds around the planet, which is so lovely. And we have this community to come back to and just kind of take refuge and be together in the work of awakening to a more successful life. So the last couple of weeks, what I was talking about was just kind of a little bit about how we do this practice, the attitude we have in this practice. For instance, being in self-care, not setting these goals that we then fail with in our intention, but having a restorative intention in our new year. We talked about mindfulness, the importance of mindfulness. And then last week I spoke about essence. We talked about how do we deepen into find our essential nature, and that this is a really normal part of being human. Sometimes people separate it out and they have this idea that essence is something over there and different and weird. And it's like, no, it's a part of us. And when we come into our integrated whole, we have much more access to wisdom, much more access to peace and ease going forward in our life. And so tonight what I wanted to talk about is the next piece of that, which is, so why don't we just sit in essence all the time? Some of you may have meditation practices, you've been on retreats, you've had moments of bliss and ease, and it's kind of like, well, why didn't I come home with that? Or you have a meditation practice at home and you're all blissed out, having a moment of peace and ease, and then, the dog barks and a thought goes by your mind like, stupid dog, You're like, oh, what happened to my peace and ease? It was just there a second ago. And so I wanted to talk about that, why that happens, and how we can work with that. So tonight what I want to focus on is mind states and psychology. So talking about our psychology and how this all works. Why do we keep getting reactivated all the time? And how do we work with that? So the first thing I want to say about what psychology is, a lot of people say, what is psychology? They use the word, but they don't really know what it means. And so I'm just going to give a really simple definition that works for me. To me, psychology is mind states. It's the mind states that we have that are created by the meanings we make and the beliefs we have. So it's mind states. So you might, when we see that someone struggles with mental illness, their mind states are not in balance. When we're depressed, we have a depressed mind state. When we're anxious, we have an anxious mind state. So it's these mind states that then color how we act, how we speak, how we behave in the world, how we react to the barking dog when we're on our cushion or we're trying to take a nap. So how does this happen that our mind states get activated? Well, I want to talk about how that works. And I'm recording this so that if you don't get it all tonight, you can go watch it again. So don't be like, my mind state is really stressed. I have to try to remember what she said. It's like, just relax. Let it be a story, okay? So our mind states, the way our body works is that we have, eyes, ears, sensate awareness, taste, smell, so we have these senses, right? We have these 5 senses. Sometimes it's said that we have 6 senses because our mind is another sense organ. And what happens is that our body is wired for survival. It's always trying to be in homeostasis, and it always wants to be well, and it wants to be in survival, making sure everything's okay. So through these senses, we have what's called contact from the world. You see sights, you hear sounds, you smell scents, right? You feel tactile, my clothes are soft or my clothes are itchy. So there's all this contact coming in, moment to moment to moment, into our senses. And we can't stop that. I think at one point I saw over 4,000 pieces of information come at us in a given moment. And that's everything from infrared to heat, temperature, how's your heart beating, are you hungry, right? So in any given moment, there's thousands of signals coming at you. And your body's job is to discern through it really quickly and make sure there's no threat. So you may be, watching a movie, it's all going great, and you get an hour or two into the movie and you really have to go to the bathroom. Well, the stronger that signal's going to get, the more it's going to take over. In the first hour of the movie, you don't notice so much. The second hour of the movie, you're like, I gotta shut this movie off. I gotta run to the bathroom. Darn it, if I'm at the theater, I'm gonna miss the next 10 minutes, right? If, for instance, your nose smells smoke, that's a huge signal. Like, whoa, okay, run out of the theater now, what's burning in my house, right? So the body is always kind of scanning, like, okay, what's important, what's not, what can I let go of? This is just natural. This is how our body works. But what happens is, to do that scanning, our body and mind needs perception. So for every signal that's coming in, the mind goes through a very quick scan of perception to notice what is that, right? Which is nice. I mean, it's nice, you don't want to have to pick up a spoon every week and go, what is that, right? It's like, spoon, right? Which is lovely. The problem is that when the mind goes into perception mode and it's trying to figure out what this thing is, all of our perceptions are encoded with memories. You don't just have a spoon floating in space. There's a memory of picking up a spoon, eating with a spoon, those kinds of things. So what happens in a given moment is that, the memory that comes with the perception can be a sweet memory, can be a painful memory. For instance, you might have a memory of, I'll use spoon for a second. You might have a memory of somebody playing spoons as a musical instrument, and that's a pleasant memory. That's lovely, right? You were a little kid watching somebody play spoons, and you're like, oh, that was amazing. Or you may have a memory of your older brother or sister taking a spoon and throwing it at you and hitting you in the head and you had to get stitches. That's a really unpleasant memory, right? So all of these perceptions are encoded with memories. And so while our mind is scanning moment to moment, it also opens the memory that goes with it. So instantly, I'm 4 years old. Instantly, I'm 15. Instantly, I'm 32. The memory that goes with it opened. Does this make sense so far? Yeah. So what happens is that's what starts the mind state. The memory opens, and the tonal quality of that memory creates the mind state. So if you have a pleasant memory, you're going to have a pleasant mind state. If you have a stressful memory, you're going to have a stressful mind state. So this is happening for all of us, moment to moment to moment. And this is why you can be in a nice, peaceful place and it gets ruined. I'm using that word on purpose. It gets ruined by a noise, ruined by a scent, ruined by a memory. Does this make sense? And then often you might notice sometimes one memory opens and that reminds it of another memory. And then, you ever have a moment where you just spin out, right? So I'll just make something up. You see, you're sitting there in a park and you're feeling lovely and mindful and peaceful and a blue car goes by. And it's like, oh, blue car. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. My ex-boyfriend Jimmy Schmimmy drove that blue car. He had a car just like it. And then, boom, here we go. Jimmy Schmimmy, he's a schmuck. He broke up with me and he was terrible and I didn't like his mother either. And next thing you know, you're gone, right? You're totally gone. So in the Buddhist world, they call that papancha. Papancha, proliferation of mind, right? So this happens to us moment to moment to moment. So you can't help it. It's why it happens. But let's talk about what we can do. What we can do with this, these are called mental formations. And so I'll be talking about these this year. How we work with mental formations, how we heal, release, and come back into balance again. So when a lot of mental formations are up, let's say Jimmy Schmimmy, the boyfriend, his mother, blah, 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 blah. When all those formations are up, they obscure or cover over our essential nature. And if you've ever had really traumatic ones or powerful ones, you can feel like I can't find my essence. I can't get back to it. Where is it? Right? A metaphor that's often used is like our essence is the sun, and mental formations are the clouds that come in front of it. And depending on how thick those clouds are and how big and dark they are, you either see the sun a little bit or you don't see the sun at all. But the sun is still there. It never went anywhere. So what we want to do is become really good at how to work with these mental formations. And I just want to name that if a trauma one opens, then that's like a big dark storm. That's a big one. It can kind of take over your mind, take over your body. Now you're feeling panicked. Now you can't breathe. Those are big storms, but they're just mental formations. These are old memories, old patterns, old beliefs that we have. And we can work with them. We can learn to work with them in ways that are really quite easy, actually. So there's an idea that's going around now in the treatment world. And it's this idea that personality flaws, so I'm talking again about our psychology and our mind states, that personality flaws are actually trauma. So if you can think of any person you know who has obnoxious personality flaws, I'd like you to start to think about it as, oh, that's just their trauma. That's just protection. They had to learn how to be tough. They had to learn how to cut people off. Or I can't connect to you. God, you're kind of distant. I can never get close enough. What's up with that? And to really see that anything in our personality, in our psychology that's difficult, is actually a protection. And so we can have a lot of compassion when we see difficulty in others, when we see difficulty in ourselves. So I just want to mark that for yourself. Anything you're not good at, anything you're struggling with, what if you just say, that's trauma or that's a protection, that's some kind of protection against pain. See it in your partners, your lover, your children. That's a protection. Now we don't have to get so worked up. There's a big mind state and we can learn how to release these mind states. So typically the way it's taught is that our defenses, when we're struggling in some kind of traumatic moment or defended moment, is that we're either going to fight, flight, or freeze. And you've probably heard that before. Sometimes or often, these defenses become personality types. So someone always seems to be aversive and fighting. Somebody often seems to be flight, moving away. In some circles, it's called a desire response. You don't so much see yourself as running away as running towards. So if you have somebody who's a flight response, you're trying to have a conversation like, hey, this isn't working out between us. And they're like, yeah, we'll talk about it after I get back from my trip, after I go shopping, after I work out. There's always this movement away from any kind of tension. And the third one is freeze, where people kind of freeze, they go into withdrawal, they get very childlike sometimes. And so these become our overall patterns. They become our personality styles. But again, just defenses. They're not really who we are. Who we are is our deep essential nature and our true nature. When we free up all this mind state, we come back to our natural self. And that's what we're aiming for here. So, what do we do with these mental formations? In my experience, I've spent years being a therapist. I've spent years being a Dharma teacher, meditation teacher. And what I find is that, for myself, what I find is that it's hard to keep trying to just come back to essence. Because when these formations are in us, they're just there to be activated. So what I've come up with is a practice of releasing these mind states. That when we release them out of the body and we release that energy that's associated with them, that actually the whole system starts to empty and calm. And when we really get to the root of the formation, the original memory, that 4-year-old part of us, the scared part of us, and we release that, then all that's left is essence. We've cleared the cloud out of the way and the sun is just left shining. And so part of what I'll be teaching about this year is how to do that. How do we release that? What's beautiful, and maybe if you were here last week, you got a taste of it, is that if you remember, one of the things I did with essence was I had us sitting in essence, being kind of anchored in it. And then I said, let's bring up a couple of things and just kind of notice where essence is at with it. So think of somebody who irritates you. Is essence irritated? No. Essence is calm and peaceful and just kind of watching, right? Think of something where you feel sad or shame. Is essence feeling sad and shame? No. Think of somebody you're judging. Does essence feel judgy? No. Feels compassionate more, right? And so by doing that, what we get to see is, wow, it has a different mind state. Essence has a very different mind state than what I like to call Maureen Incorporated or Maureen Inc. Maureen Inc. is filled with all my formations and all the rules and all the beliefs and all the training, socialization I've gotten in my life. Some from the nuns that I've had to undo, being raised as a Catholic sometimes, right? I'm like, whoa, that nun was not very helpful. So we all have formations that aren't very helpful. So when we're in this formation, when we're in our 4-year-old, the meaning is, let's say, scary. Oh, I'm in trouble. Or nobody likes me. Or nobody's going to pick me on the team today. Right? When we're in essence, the meaning is very different. Essence looks out at the world and says, oh, that person's struggling. Oh, they're afraid. Nope, they're not getting to me. Somebody can say, you're a fat, stupid idiot. And I could say, is essence feel like a fat, stupid idiot? And essence would be like, no, I'm not a fat, stupid idiot. Got that, right? So any kind of name calling, any kind of shaming, it just doesn't touch essence. And because essence isn't harmed by the world, it doesn't fear that it's in trouble, that it's dying, that it's suffocating. Sometimes we feel that way. And so because its meaning is different, its response to the world is different. It doesn't come from reactivity, it offers responses. Mental formations offer reactivity based mostly in fear and pain and hurt. And essence is clear, pure, at ease. So, in this practice, what I'm inviting us to is that we come to make a real relationship with our essential nature. We come to see it as, oh, this is part of me. No different than having intuition. It's like, oh, this is just a deeper part of me. We bring it back and we re-knit it back into our sense of self. It's absolutely normal to be connected to our essence. It's a normal way to walk around the world. How beautiful. It's who we were more when we were young children, before all the fears stuck to us. So it's like coming back to freedom and ease, that time in your life when you didn't really think about your body or how you looked, or is everybody going to like me? You just kind of ran out in the world like, ta-da, I'm here, let's play, right? We didn't wonder how we looked, right? That came later, after shame and all that other stuff happened. So we want to reclaim that. And we want to be able to live in essence so that we come out, and if somebody says, you know, you're stupid, you don't get to play, essence just goes, okay, thanks for sharing. Wow, you're having a bad day. You know, it's not personally hurt by it. The second thing we want to do is when we get in touch with essence, gratitude practice, all these things that nourish us, loving kindness practice, we want to breathe that through our system so that we anchor it in. A lot of times I'll ask you to breathe some goodness in through your whole system so that it actually wires into your brain and into your neurosystem. In this way, you come to embody well-being. You come to embody joy and love again. Yeah. And then the third thing we do is we release these formations. You know, we learn how to release them out of our body when they arise, just like I did today with you guys on the sit, when I said, oh, so things are coming, you can breathe them out, or you can let them just flow. Just let that energy flow out of your body or out of your feet, or just let it flow. And by having this practice of, oh, things arise and I let it go, things arise and I let it go, we come into our natural flow of how we are when we're not clinging, when we're not scared, when we're not braced. So again, we breathe it through our system and we're coming home to, oh, it's natural to be safe and at ease. It's natural to feel mature and comfortable, even if that person over there is having a hard time. It doesn't have to unseat me. How beautiful that can be. For those of you who have a spiritual practice, this releasing of formations is often talked about as a purification practice. If you have a deep spiritual practice and you're a dedicated practitioner, you may hear from your teachers, you know, or clergy that we all need to purify. Well, what we're purifying is our fear. We're purifying our old wounds. When they're cleared, our whole system is still and cool, calm. And that purification, if that's what you want to call it, I like to call it release, only because, again, I was raised Catholic, so the purification part, I watch my mind state, what comes up is a story like, oh, purification, sin, right? I can just watch that come up in my head, and it's like, oh, there's a mental formation, right there. I don't have to get attached to it, but I noticed it happened. So for me, I call it release work, just because that's easier. It just doesn't have a charge for some people. But once we clear our system, then what's left is this essential nature. And now we're coming to the world clear, happy, joyful, loving, not afraid to do what we came here to do. And I don't know what that means for you. It might mean cultivating a garden you've always wanted to do, or taking on some work or project that's dear to your heart that you've been too afraid to do. When these obscurations are cleared, you're free to live your potential and live your passions. You're free to show up in love and have deeper intimacy. You're free to not harm the world anymore. You know? There's this quote I love. Your own self-realization is the greatest service you can render the world. You know, you're just one less person making a mess of it, right? So maybe we can do that. And as we release these formations, you know, we start to see the change right away. We start to notice, oh, there's ease right away. Or sometimes I'll have people that I work with say to me, you know what's so funny? My sister called me up and did that thing she always does, and I didn't react. Like, I didn't lose it this time. I felt compassion for her. So as we release these formations, we start to change. Ever so slightly, but immediately. Here's this quote. 2 petals fall, and the shape of the peony is wholly changed. I love that. Just 2 petals fall, and the shape of the peony is changed. Wholly changed. So you start to see benefit right away, which is nice, right? You don't have to wait 30 years to get that. This last quote about formations, which are just memories, they're, you know, illusions. You cannot be rid of your problems without abandoning your illusions. So all the beliefs you have, you know, I'm not good enough, nobody likes me, I don't have a voice. Whatever we have, those limiting beliefs, we can't be rid of our problems while we're carrying those limiting beliefs. So we want to learn how to put them down in a way that feels safe and nourishing. And at the end of the practice, at the end of the day, we feel more whole. We feel more centered, more happy. So I hope this makes sense to you. I just wanted to kind of give a map of where we're headed. So we're headed towards essence, but we have this other path where we have to deal with these mental formations first. I know many people who try to just do the essence part, and they don't know why. They beat themselves up. Why do I keep having these formations happening? Why do I still have greed or hatred or fear? It's like, well, because you didn't quite get the root. You know, we can calm ourselves for the moment, but if you don't pull that root out, it's going to reflower the very next time the contact happens. The very next time your sister calls you. The very next time your partner condescends to you. The very next time you get cut off in traffic. There it is. Right? So I hope this brings some clarification and puts some ease to your reactivity. You know, that you can see that any of these psychological flaws, if that's what we want to call them, that they're just protections, they're mental formations, old memories, and we can release them and be free. So thanks for your attention. And I know this was a lot of information tonight, but I just wanted to kind of give a map, a clear map. And we had done so much experiential last week, I thought, we can do a little mind tonight. So, and like I said, this is recorded, so if it didn't make sense, you can go back and listen some more, and till it feels and drops in a little more clear for you. And if this work is helpful to your practice, I welcome your support of this work to let me kind of keep going forward with it. So if you feel moved to make a donation or to support this work in some way, you can go to my website, fallon-cyr.com, and there's places that you can donate. For those who have supported me, deep, deep gratitude. Thank you so much. Really fills my heart with joy and appreciation and sustenance in terms of going forward, in terms of a mutual supporting community. So thank you very much for that. What I'd love to do is end with a mindful moment where we just don't hold all this for ourselves, but we actually kind of set this intention that we share it out in the world. So you can close your eyes for just a moment. So as we come into this awareness that mental formations are old memories, activating us and others moment to moment to moment, that we can have compassion for ourselves and for others, and to see that anything that's disruptive in this world is just trauma or pain and protection, some kind of protection. And may we clear our old pain so that we are in a response to the world, not reactivity, so that we can be in peace and ease and really flower our potential, our passions. And may the good that comes from this work ripple out beyond us to those we love, those we know and don't know, so that this stream of allowing healing and formations to release spreads through the world, that all beings may release their pain and suffering and know the deep, beautiful essence of their own heart. So, thank you everybody. I love sitting with you. And yeah, don't beat yourself up for these formations. They're just going to happen right now. So just a little loving kindness, a little breathing out the tension, a little let it flow out. And we'll talk some more about how you can release them directly. So lovely to sit with you all, and have a sweet week. Have a sweet week.